Hey, what's up, my people? I'm so glad that you guys are back this week. First of all, thank you for supporting my channel, Hill Tribe Storyteller. Again, my name is Z, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed my stories so far and are ready to hear some more this week. I know that my stories might not be the same as the one that you might have heard from other storytellers, but remember, these are oral stories that have been passed down from my parents to me and from their parents to them, so they're subject to change. And I hope that by sharing these stories with you guys, I'll be able to preserve my culture for my kids and future generations. I appreciate you guys taking the time to join me this week for another episode of the Misadventure of Zha. So, on this week on the Misadventure of Zha, I'll be telling you guys the third story. The next story consists of two shorter stories that I've combined into one. This chapter is called Go Straight to Find My Appetite. I hope that you all enjoy the next story as much as I do. So, let's see what's in store for King and Zha this week. A long, long time ago, there was a man named Zha. And so far, we know that Zha's quite the trickster and lazy. But one thing that I haven't mentioned to you guys about Zha is that he gets easily sidetracked. What do I mean by this, you ask? Well, when the villagers would ask Zha for help, if it's something that Zha wanted to do, then he'll go help them. However, if it's something that he doesn't want to do, then he'll get sidetracked from the task and go do his own thing. For example, a villager once asked Zha to help him till his garden. On the way to the garden, Zha saw a dead grasshopper by the side of the road, and saw it as an opportunity to hone his funeral directing skills. When asked why he didn't show up to help, Zha claimed that the dead grasshopper didn't have any relatives, so it was up to him to give it a proper send-off. Zha would conduct elaborate funeral for rogue critters that he found along the way. Zha took it upon himself to be the pastor, the choir, the funeral director, and so on. He came up with long, elaborate eulogy, an hour-long slideshow to showcase the fallen critter's life. He prepared berries and fruit for all the attendees and made sure that the critter was laid to rest properly. This usually took the whole day, and Zha would skip out on whatever task that he was asked to do. Eventually, his excuses got old amongst the villager, so they decided to go to King for help. They complained to King about Zha's behavior and how he could never accomplish any task that they ever asked of him. King found this to be obnoxious. He didn't believe the villagers. He said that Zha would never do such thing. The villagers disagreed and challenged King to assign Zha with a task to see if he would follow through. King thought about it and agreed. The next day, King asked his servant to go and fetch Zha for him. The servant did as they were told and went over to Zha's house. When they got there, they informed Zha that King requested his presence at the palace because King had an important task for him. Later that day, Zha went to the palace. When he arrived, King announced to him that he had a very important task for Zha to do. He wanted Zha to make a journey to the next village over to grab some medicine from his sister to help increase his appetite. He hasn't been feeling himself lately, and the meds would help. The village was located on top of the next mountain straight west of their village. King instructed Zha that he wanted Zha to go straight there and back. No funny business. King reminded Zha that he shouldn't be conducting funerals for rogue grasshoppers, or helping ants in and out of holes, or teaching little ducklings how to swim, or telling stories to old cows. King told Zha that he was aware of Zha's ability to get sidetracked easily, so he needed Zha to promise to go straight there and back. Zha thought about it and agreed. Straight there and back, Zha repeated to himself. And King said, yes, straight there and back. Then Zha went home. The next day, Zha woke up extra early and started his journey. Zha reminded himself that King wanted him to go straight there and back. Go grab the medicine, then come straight back, Zha told himself. No funny business. As Zha walked straight west from his house to King's sister's village, he soon came across a rice paddy and a vegetable garden. Without stopping, Zha trekked straight through the field of cabbages and squash and corn, causing all the farmers to stop what they were doing. They yelled, "What are you doing, Zha? Walking through our fields and killing all of our produce?" Zha replied, "Well, you see, guys, King told me to go straight to that village there on top of that there mountain, to grab some medicine for him. He told me to go straight there and back, no funny business. So I'm walking straight there and back. It's not my fault that your garden is in the way. If you're not happy about it, take it up with King." The farmers replied, "Quit your lying, Zha. King will never do such a thing." Zha explained to them that if they didn't believe him, then they can go and talk to King themselves. The farmers were upset, but they couldn't stop Zha from trekking through their fields. So they just looked at each other and decided that they'll just take it up with King. Zha continued his journey west. After a while, he came upon some villagers putting up a fence. He asked them what they were doing. They told Zha that they were putting up a fence to keep their hogs from tearing up the posts around their house. Zha scolded them and said, "Guys, I hate to do this to you, but your fence is in my way. You see, King asked me to go straight to his sister's village on top of that there mountain to fetch some medicine and then come straight back." The villagers told Zha that they'd been working all morning on their fence and for him to go around, but Zha insisted. He said to them, "King was adamant that I go straight there and back. You see, I've been traveling straight all day, and it would be a shame if I deviated from my path. Now guys, King wouldn't be happy if he heard that I didn't obey his royal order. You guys wouldn't want to be the reason why I disobey a direct order now, would you?" The villagers looked at each other and shook their heads. Zha then ordered them to tear down their fence, and he proceeded his journey west. The villagers watched him walk off, and they decided that they'll just take it up with King since King was the one that gave Zha the order. Later that day, Zha came across some students. The student asked Zha where he was going. Zha replied, "I'm going to King's sister's village, on top of that there mountain, to fetch some meds for King so that he can get his appetite back." Zha then asked the student where they were headed. They told Zha that they were headed to school. The student then asked Zha why he was headed toward their school. One of the students asked, "Did you want to go to school with us, Zha?" Zha thought about it. The thought of going to school would be fun, but his thoughts were quickly interrupted by King's booming voice. "Go straight there and back. No funny business." Zha shook his head and replied, "No, I have to fetch King's meds, so I can't go to school with you guys." The student understood and suggested they walk to their school together. When they arrived at school, Zha asked one of the students to go and get their teacher. Zha had something important to discuss with them. A couple of students ran off and got their teacher for Zha. When the teacher arrived, he asked Zha what was going on. Zha explained to the teacher that he would have to move their school. Zha said, "You see, Teach, King has tasked me with an important job. He has instructed me to go straight to his sister's village to grab some meds to help him with his appetite, and then come straight back. I hate to do this to you, but your school is in the way, and we need to move it." "Move it?" yelled the teacher. "Heck no." The teacher explained to Zha that the school was erected since General Ming Pao has governed the Hmong people of Laos. He can't just simply move it because King said so. Zha replied, "Okay, but if King finds out that I didn't go straight there and back, it'll be your head that's going to roll." The teacher thought about it and decided he didn't want to be executed. So the teacher gathered up the student and they decided to move the school. They each grabbed a corner of the school, and with all their might they moved the school a couple of inches out of the way for Zha. Exhausted and angry, the teacher said to Zha, "Zha, this is ridiculous. I'm going to have a word with King, to let him know that you've endangered the student and disgraced the general's name." Zha encouraged the teacher and said, "Go ahead, I dare you. Remember, it was King who ordered me to go straight there and back, and that's why I had you move your school." Zha then continued his journey west towards the King's sister's village. Finally, Zha arrived at King's sister's village. She knew that Zha was coming and was already waiting for him. She gave him the medicine and reminded him to bring it straight back to King. Zha wasted no time and turned around and went right back toward the village. On the way back, Zha passed a school that was forced to move so that he can go straight. Zha chuckled at the thought of the teacher, a commoner who didn't understand that he would have been executed if it wasn't for Zha encouraging him to move his school, so that Zha can complete King's royal task. He later passed a fence that he had the villagers tear down earlier that day. He had it tear down because it was blocking him from going straight. Zha chuckled at how he had saved the villagers from the wrath of King by having them tear down that ridiculous fence. Finally, he passed a field that he trekked through that morning. Zha chuckled to himself and thought of all the trouble he saved the villagers by getting rid of their produce that was blocking his way from conducting royal business. King will be pleased, he thought, and hurried back to the palace. When he arrived at the palace, Zha was surprised to see the farmers, villagers, and teacher there. They were all very upset and wanted Zha to pay for all the damage that he had caused. When King saw Zha, he yelled, "Zha, didn't I tell you to go straight to my sister's village, grab the meds, then come straight back? Why are all these people so upset at you? Did you get sidetracked again?" Zha answered, "Well, you see, King, you told me to go straight there, so I did. I went straight west from my house. When I came across the farmer's field, I walked straight through it, thus trampling over their produce. Then I continued straight and came across those villagers' fence. It was in my way, so I had them tear it down. And finally, I came across the teacher and his school. It was slightly in my way, so I had to move it. That's all." King was furious. "So you literally went straight," yelled King. "Yes," replied Zha. "Zha, you idiot. What I meant by going straight was for you to focus on the task at hand and not be distracted, not for you to literally go straight." Zha apologized for misunderstanding the instructions and reminded King that it was he who had given Zha the order to go straight there and back. One of the villagers spoke up and asked if that was true. King meekly admitted that he did give Zha the order to go straight there and back. Then the villagers talked amongst themselves and decided that King should pay for all the damages, since he was the one who gave Zha the order. King compensated everyone for their troubles and sent everyone home. Zha then gave King the medicine and scurried home before King could punish him. King took the meds for a couple of days and noticed that he wasn't getting his appetite back. He was starting to worry, so he told one of his servants to go fetch Zha to see if Zha had messed around with his meds. So the servant went to Zha's house and asked Zha to come to the palace. Later that day, Zha showed up, and King said, "Zha, I was wondering if you messed with the medicine my sister gave you, and I've been taking for a couple of days and I don't see any effect on me." Zha looked at the medicine and said, King, these aren't good medicine. If you wanted medicine to regain your appetite, you should have asked me. I'm sort of a doctor myself." And King said, "Really, Zha?" Zha said, "Yes. I know of this herbal medicine on top of this high mountain. It would take about a day's walk for us to get there." King said, "Well, if you know about this medicine, then take me." So Zha said, "All right, but it's going to be a long, long journey." King told Zha that he was ready. So the next day, they packed up all their stuff, and Zha came and took them to go find some herbal medicine for King's appetite. They walked and walked and walked, and they came across the plain of jars. Zha told King that these jars, these stone jars, was once used to keep prisoners for the giants back in the days, so they gotta hurry through. They don't want to get caught in this bad juju. So they continue across the plain of jars, and they walked and walked and walked some more, and they came across this giant roaring river. Zha told King that this river was the Mekong River. This river has claimed so many lives. During the Vietnam War, when the Hmongs fled the country to go to Thailand so that they can go to America for freedom. And Zha told King that this river was full of dragon demons, and they should hurry because they don't want to lose their soul to these demons. So they hurried along the river and went deeper into the jungle. As they hiked all day, they came across this giant mountain. And Zha informed the king that this mountain was the Longhorn Ox Mountain, and the ox on this mountain had extremely sharp horn, and if they weren't careful, they can be impaled by these horns and die on the spot. So they have to hurry. And they trekked on, and Zha took them all over the place, in the jungles, over the hills, through the woods, all the way back to the village, back to King's backyard. King recognized this and said, "What the heck, Zha? You took us on a wild goose chase, and we didn't even get any medicine for my appetite." Zha said, "Well, King, I'm sorry. We're probably fresh out of medicine for your appetite." And King said, "Forget it. I'm so hungry right now, I can eat a horse." He called up the servants and the queen and said, "Prepare some lunch. I'm so hungry I can eat a horse." So they scurried into the kitchen and fixed him up a couple bowls of rice, some pork ribs, and some beef la. And man, King went to town. He didn't even invite anyone to eat lunch with him. When he was done, he sat back and said, "Zha, I am so disappointed in you. First I gave you a task to go straight, and you literally went straight and caused all this trouble for me. And then you lied to me and told me that you had all this intel on this herbal medicine to help with my appetite, yet here we are at the end of the day with nothing." And Zha's like, "Wow, King, you can't blame me for everything. I mean, you did just eat 2 bowls of rice, a rack of ribs, and some beef la." King thought about it. Yes, I did. Yes, I did, Zha. Zha said, well, you see, the whole idea was to have you go on a hike with me, to see the world, and that way it'll increase your appetite. King said, I guess you're right, Zha. I didn't think of that. Hiking with you all day has increased my appetite greatly. I guess I'll spare you this time. You did go straight, like I asked you to, got me that medicine and came back, and then you did help me find my appetite, so I guess we're even, Zha. So King dismissed Zha from the palace, and Zha went home. And that's the end of this story. You see, guys, don't be like Zha. If a friend asks you to help them out with a task, help them out wholeheartedly. Just because you don't enjoy the task doesn't give you the right to make an excuse to get out of it. And remember, if you ever lose your appetite, go for a long hike. I guarantee you that by the end of the day, you'll have your appetite back. Again, thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to another episode of the Misadventure of Zha. I hope you enjoy these stories, and remember to like and subscribe to my channel, Hill Tribe Storyteller, and I'll see all of you next story.